Victoria, I hate to do this on the podcast in front of all these listeners, but we're going to have to let you go. Skin by You has decided to go in a different direction as far as our esthetician goes, and we're really looking for a rock star at a time like this.
Sounds really familiar. This is based on a true story, guys.
That's a weird way to start the podcast, but this is what we're doing.
Yeah, how I got fired as an esthetician.
A true story. This is not based on a true story. This is a very true story. So to help you open up the story, let's talk about your first job as an esthetician and a little bit about how it unfolded and how it made you feel and how it made us feel.
Everybody starts somewhere. That's all I got to say to start.
Yeah.
I started at Massage Envy as a solo.
You didn't get fired from there, though.
Not as a solo esthetician. I wish.
And you didn't get fired from there either.
I didn't. I actually received Employee of the Month within the first month.
Okay, now you're
So
flexing.
I was a rock star there.
Yeah.
At Massage Envy, not to brag or anything.
Yeah.
But I started at Massage Envy. I worked there fresh out of school. So Jace was a baby. My mom watched Jace while I went to work. Mm-hmm. Then I quickly realized that it was too much with a little one and commuting from Brentwood to Vacaville, which was about a 45-minute to an hour commute, depending on traffic.
And sometimes they were short shifts, like 3-hour shifts too.
Mm-hmm. So that was my first job. Took a little break. Really wanted to get into the aesthetics field. Mm-hmm. Didn't have the opportunity to because you worked a really good job in California,
doing
made a lot of money.
Yeah, traveled a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah, was what the biggest issue was the travel, where I'd stay away a lot. So a lot of overnights, which made it really difficult for you to come home from a shift after the babysitter had the baby and then be home solo, like tired, and then be by yourself.
Definitely. I didn't understand the type of esthetician that I wanted to be. I got to explore what it was like, got a little taste of it, but never truly understood what I wanted to be as an esthetician because there's so many routes that you can go.
You didn't really know about medical aesthetics at the time either.
I didn't. Right? I didn't even know that world existed, to be honest. And that's where, when we did move to Florida, that's when we switched roles. Instead of you, essentially we were unhappy.
Yeah. I worked a lot, and
we loved each other, of course, but
I missed
just
a lot
daily
of time.
life.
Yeah, I missed a lot of time with our at the time 3-year-old because I was traveling so much. And then you kind of dabbled in the space, but if I'm mistaken, I remember you not liking it to an extent because of how much face massage you did, and you started to rethink was this a good idea?
I didn't know what it was like to be a medical esthetician. So I had not a bad taste in my mouth, but I just hated doing 90-minute facials. I didn't realize that there was treatment-based services to being an esthetician. So when we moved to Florida, that's when I really got to spread my wings and really explore what it was like to be on the more treatment side of aesthetics. So that's where a medical esthetician, there's actually no license, I believe, that you are a medical esthetician, but it just comes with, states. I think that's just the easiest way to describe it because you are doing medical services.
And shout out to Florida. If you're a new esthetician and you're in a state, changed. Yeah, but then in general, Florida still, you can do a lot, right? Like doing microneedling, you can't do microneedling in every state. So shout out to the states like Arizona and Florida that have the option, not only because it's not that it's better than places like California or places that are more strict, but it's cool because some estheticians can maybe find a better rhythm and groove in those places because there's more options. So I think that if we moved to a state that maybe was really strict again and you ended up in a place doing fluffy facials again,
that's why I could never move back to California.
Yeah, because you feel like there's too many things now that you've got that after they've been taken, if they were taken away, it would feel...
I would go crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that as an esthetician make you fulfilled and happy. So if I were to do waxing, for instance, and that got taken away from me, I couldn't do it in another state, I would not go to that state.
Yeah. Which is, it's crazy to think about. We've traveled a little bit now too. So I guess we're very fortunate to have be in the position to be like, test out a few of these waters.
I'm licensed in California, then we moved to Florida, now in Arizona. So I'm licensed in 3 states.
Yeah. We kept all 3 licenses too, just in case we ever changed our mind. So every year we do, fortunately they're very small renewals, but you are consistently licensed in 3 states.
Back to the story.
Yeah, let's get back into getting fired. So then you found a good job at a med spa, a good job, not the best place, but what?
I was going to say it subtly. But anyways, there's no reason to name the name. But I worked at a spa, Schmitty Spa, and sorry, I said that I wasn't going to say it, but I did anyways.
Keep going. You worked at the spa?
That was dumb. Yeah, I worked at the spa. Was so happy to finally land a job that was in a different space than I had known before. So, for instance, this was a med spa. I did not know that the world of medical aesthetics existed. So when I mean medical aesthetics, I'm talking about even hydrofacial. I'm talking about chemical peels, lasers, IPL, BBL, which is broadband lift, not a BB, not the Brazilian one, exactly,
but the one of the face.
So there was just so much more to actually treating the skin, making long-term relationships, results, and so I fell in love with this space. It was a whole new world to me. So I was so happy, so ecstatic to just be in a space that truly made me happy, because I felt like I was making a difference in people's lives and making people feel good. I think confidence and my long-term goal, I always knew that I wanted to be in a space where I made people feel good. I could spread God's love and just really pour into people. So I felt like I really thrived in that. So being a stay-at-home mom and then going off and working for a medical spa, I ventured out in so many different ways that I couldn't even imagine. I got treatments that I had never gotten before. So I got lasers, I got BBL, and which I actually got burned. That's a fun story. That'll be another story for another day. I got Botox, I got fillers. So I haven't, there was a whole world to me that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, they got to experience for the first time.
Yeah. I mean, I think that my growth along the way made me realize the things that I love and things that I don't do. So, even just touching base onto the services that I offered in Florida, I have different viewpoints now than I did when I got certain services. Yeah. So it's just growth. For instance, I don't get Botox and filler anymore. Yep. I personally made that decision myself. So my whole goal is to, in this space, create confidence. And I think confidence comes from building your own self. I think it comes from, not giving into certain temptations. So for me, I don't have anything against anybody that does Botox and fillers. And to be honest, it can be tempting for me sometimes, seeing other people do it. But I truly want people to feel beautiful for who they are and feeling confident for who God made them to be. I think that there's a pressure to be like everybody else. There is a pressure to look a certain way, especially with the industry being mostly women. Yeah. It's very easy to compare yourself to other women, not feel good about yourself. So like I said, not anything wrong with anything, but I just found what I loved as a provider. So just truly just treating the skin. I know that Botox, filler, lasers, all these things can complement your services. And I love lasers, for instance, but I mean, I'm primarily talking about Botox and filler. Like I said, nothing against it, but I want people to feel truly beautiful for who they are. Yeah.
I think that, that's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's an amazing point. And I also think it's a really good point when you're talking about that was your first real job into the industry. And we've recommended before people go work for a spa, work for somewhere else before they venture off on their own for a couple of reasons. One, you might actually just love working for somebody else. And I know it's kind of like it's a look down on a idea here in the industry. But I think for some people it's perfect. I think it's great to go under somebody else's wing. If you can find a great business to work for, it's supportive. You can get all those services, you can get all that experience, and not have to pay to build it all out yourself.
Yeah. Working for somebody else can definitely give you the idea of if you want to go out on your own or if you are happy with working under somebody. I think that environment is really important when you are working for somebody else. You may love the atmosphere that you're around, or it may make you push a fire in you to where you want to make a change in your own industry. And that's something that I truly wanted to do.
Yeah, I think that, but the thing is, what's interesting too, is that wasn't the plan in the beginning, was never going out on your own. So tying back into the story of getting fired, I want you to talk about kind of where you were at in that business, what you were building, what your ideas were, what your dreams were as you were at that med spa.
Yeah. So this was a whole new world to me. I had never imagined that I even wanted to open up my own business. We never talked about it.
And I wasn't in the space with you like I am now.
It was never in the cards for us. We wanted to build with whoever that we were working for. We were a really unique situation because we worked for a company. This is my first job as an esthetician, so I didn't even know that going solo was an option, to be honest. How long ago?
This is 5 years ago now.
And I think that a lot of people have trust issues, people that don't want to see you grow outside of, because they see so much potential in you. And I realize that now.
They want the bag. Yeah.
I wanted to grow with a company, and that's not what they wanted. They wanted everything to go back to them. And I was completely okay with that. I wanted the company that I was working for to succeed as well, because your success is my success, but they didn't see it that way. They saw it as I can go off and go steal their clients and do my own thing. And of course that can definitely happen. I didn't realize it at the time.
We were very naive.
At the same time, no matter what, if you're working for somebody else, if you have clients that fall in love with you, they're going to find you.
Yeah, they're going to chase you down regardless. And I think this is something I want to tell the viewers, because I don't know if people are going to really believe us or not, that was never the plan. And we even I sat down myself with Victoria, with the owners of this company, and said like, hey, we want to be around. Like, I want to film content for you guys. We want to build out this clientele with you guys. And at the time we didn't think that going solo was ever an option.
To the situation.
We were just giving them ideas. We wanted to bring on jelly masks before they had it. I was like, I just need a content day every single month. I can get clients in the door.
To give our ideas.
Which was just interesting. And I mean, I don't know how every business believes this, but they were not. In the meeting, they made it seem like, oh yeah. And the minute we walked out, it was not that way anymore. And clearly that, and now as business owners, we understand a lot more just their skepticism and their, they were not very optimistic about us sticking around. But we just felt, especially looking back, like we were just so genuine and like naive and just like, we'll give everything. Like just so you guys know, we were offering them free content days. I would come in and shoot photo and video, not just Victoria, but for the rest of the business if they needed it, just because we wanted her to grow. Her books were not filled and we wanted them to get filled. And it's just,
in our brain, we were like, let's get all this content so that we can get booked. It was never so that we can get all the clients. No, because it was always like
your name was in the bio. We tagged them on everything, and we drove the link in our bio was to their business.
It's so crazy looking back on that situation, because I didn't even realize all the behind the scenes that was going on in that situation, which is kind of crazy to think about, because never once did we ever think that we were going to leave and steal their clients. We were just so naive and so new to the space, but
like, we didn't think you could steal clients. Like, how would you even get them at the time? Like we didn't have a ton of clients on your Instagram either.
I think that's a good point though, is that me personally, as of right now, I don't have any desire. I did hire on somebody, but I have no desire, and it didn't work out. So I have no desire to hire right now. And that's just where I'm at personally. I think it's a really cool opportunity for you to realize what you want and what you don't want. Because I thought once this happened and then I went on my own was, okay, I want to have a full practice. I want to go out on my own. And circling back is that I can go into that situation and I learned so much, but I think it's really important to realize that somebody might not grow with you. I recently was on interviewing Maddie from Glow On Studios, and she was like,
she's accepting the fact that it could be a stepping stone, which I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's I love Maddie. It was a great interview and it was great spending time with her and learning more about her business. And that idea is really interesting. And I don't know if we want to be the change we wish to see in this industry. I think that we should also stop thinking about that mindset. We're not going to hire on an esthetician probably ever, so it's probably not something we have to think about too much. But I do think that people in general should think this way of maybe if we start putting more trust and better communication with each other and our employees, there's less likely that you have to look at people and go, they're going to be a stepping stone. Like we shouldn't, as an employee, you shouldn't look at your boss as their business being a stepping stone. And as a boss, you shouldn't look at your employee being that way. And I know it's easier said than done, but I do think that would be a much healthier way to go, hey, if you're going to work here, invest into our business. And if you ever decide you want to move on, that's okay. Let's just make sure we all handle this in the right way. And there's no weird finagling out of if you have a non-compete for 20 miles and you're 21 miles away,
that's over.
That's over. But I think those are things that I think we should just like squash, and it's easier said than done. But if us as an industry can all look at each other and go, let's help each other out, because there's so much money in the space, guys. There's so many clients. There's so much money to be spent. We can all be okay.
Yeah. I think people have so much fear of competition in this industry. There's a lot of women, obviously.
Yeah, a lot of jealousy. There's so much room for everybody. And that's something that I want to reiterate, is that it's not just, it's me or nothing. Yeah.
It's very self-centered. This industry is very self-centered. And that's why when we hired on our first employee, we wanted to be a change. And we quickly realized that it's not like that for everybody. Not everybody wants to grow with you. Yeah. And so it's okay. But that made us realize that, like, I want to grow and just grow in different ways, if that makes sense. And we have a lot of exciting partnerships coming up soon that we're excited to share about. But
definitely moving in a different direction. But anyways, back to the being fired story. So, rounding out what actually happened, how you felt in that moment, and how it all unfolded. We have to get into the really juicy part of the story finally.
Let's get into the juicy part of it, because we've been rambling a lot. So I thought everything was great. I had no idea that there was even a possibility of me getting fired. I thought everybody was rooting for me. I thought that I was on the team. I was part of the whole team, the process.
And you started getting more clients around that time.
I grew a lot. I did a lot for the company. We were making more money
than we ever did. Not ever.
So
at that
I finally
point,
was at a point where I would start making commission because I was growing so much. I got a lot of Google reviews. I really worked hard, and not to pride myself in any of this, but I worked really hard for the company, thinking that I was going to grow with them, and they just saw it as I was working against them. Yeah. So, I mean, it comes back to intimidation, fear, lack of confidence in your own employee. So not giving anybody the benefit of the doubt. So I showed up. I mean, there's a lot of back end to the story, but basically I thought that they were on my team. I came up one day, literally worked the whole day.
It was like a Tuesday or something.
This was all planned, which was crazy.
But it was like middle of the week. Like this was a Tuesday. You had clients that whole week scheduled already.
No, it was Friday, I think.
I think it was earlier in the week.
I have a bad memory.
I just remember you still had clients scheduled.
I did.
Yeah. So it wasn't like there was no clients for the following week.
Because
there
I had
was clients the following week.
It was a Friday. I had clients the following week. I was I was so happy that I finally had clients that were booked for me. And it seemed like once I was about to hit that commission, they were like, peace out. No, she's probably going to go off.
Wait, go back. Tell the story.
Sorry. There's a lot of hurt in this story still. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I basically worked that whole Friday. Had no idea, literally nobody. And at the time, the lady that I worked with, she's still a really good friend of mine, Karen Marie. She had no idea either. We were really close together working, and it was probably 4:00 and I had one last client. They pulled me aside and broke the news to me before my last client.
Which is also kind of crazy.
And secretly told my coworker that, hey, we're firing her. You need to take this last client. Yeah. And she was livid. Yeah. She was so upset at this story because it was not right. It wasn't fair. And I was bawling my eyes out because it was so unexpected. I had no idea that they were plotting this whole... No, I'm serious. They were plotting this whole scenario against me.
Here's another funny part of the story too. The owner of the business who was there did not tell Victoria. It was the manager.
Yeah.
And the owner was actively involved in the business. It wasn't some kind of like wealthy owner that only stepped in here and there. She was in the building and she made the manager tell Victoria and not her.
Yeah. And that hurt a lot because it's like unconfrontational.
Yep.
It's somebody that you put your time and your energy into, and you can't even have the
you can't even say, hey,
courage.
We're going a different direction.
And I think that's something that's really important when you are parting ways with somebody, to make amends. If you were to tell me face to face that you were unhappy and I'm not happy, I don't want to grow with you, then we can be mutual respecting and understanding. But it was out of nowhere. At the time too, I was going through a difficult time. We had a roommate at the time, and I told them that day, hey, like my roommate left us.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need this job basically. And they knew that. And so when the manager fired me, she was like, I felt so bad when you told me that you couldn't pay. Basically, you were struggling right now, and that I had to fire you the same day.
We still did it anyway.
Yeah, we still did it anyways.
My bad.
Yeah, so it was a really difficult situation. Their reasoning was that I did a photo shoot.
Yeah, there was a couple of really weird things that they used for us on Instagram. There was one that a brand sent us something for free. We posted it because we thought it was cool. They didn't like that. And then there was another med spa that you wore.
I modeled
you modeled her shirt. That she was in like South Florida, and you wore her shirt. And they were like, they kind of like threw that out there too, like, and you wore her shirt promoting her. It was just silly. They basically were just making up stuff to try to make themselves feel better for letting you go, and telling everybody else that liked you that we had to let Victoria go.
Everybody was so livid.
Yeah,
because it was sneaky. Yeah. It wasn't mutual.
It didn't make sense to everybody.
It was just very and it's funny. The reason why we say rock star is because when they were interviewing other people, they were looking for a rock star esthetician. And that's when I didn't even go into this, but I was a receptionist when I first worked there. And I saw that they were hiring, and I stepped my foot in and I said, hey, I really, really would love to be considered to work for you guys as an esthetician. So even that's me working into being an esthetician. So I had to like fight for that. Yeah. I had to fight so hard for that. So finally they agreed to it. The owner was honestly never on my side, in my opinion. She fought it so hard, but I finally got my way and I fought for it. And so I think that's another really quick point, is that if you want something, go get it. Because even though the situation
in the beginning of the story is that you started as a receptionist, which I think is also interesting. And some people would probably, if a med spa was hiring a receptionist and not an esthetician, they would go, well, no, they just want a receptionist.
Yeah.
And you wanted to get in the industry so bad that you went, I'll do what do what it takes to learn the information and get in.
There's nothing wrong with starting as a receptionist. And honestly, that helped me grow so much, because I realized the ins and outs of what services were, how to explain them, how to sell them. And
you got services done because they were able to give it to you if either discounted or free. Definitely. So you learned them so you could sell them to people on the way out.
I'm very grateful that I was able to start there. And unfortunately, it didn't end the way that I wanted to. And it could have ended differently. But yeah, I just still can't believe to this day. I'll never forget the moment sadness and just calling Chris crying.
Yeah, it's Victoria's first and last job she ever got fired from until I actually fire her from Skin by You when I find maybe a different wife or a better, I don't know. Never mind, I'll leave that there. I thought it was going to be funnier, but it was okay. But yeah, the first and last job you ever fired from. And then, I mean, there's crazy. A story that got us all the way to open the business, which if you've listened to other podcasts, you've heard before. But yeah, that's the story.
That's the story. Did we tell it pretty good?
I think it was pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, no, but thanks so much for tuning in to this episode, guys. There is so much work that it took to get to where we are today. That was about 3 years ago. I did indeed get fired, so hopefully I don't get fired again from Skin by You. I am the only esthetician, so if you fire me, you won't make any money.
Yeah, we'll be out of luck, yeah.
But thank you so much for tuning in. If you love this episode, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and make sure that you tune on to the next podcast. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.
I'm working late 'cause I'm a singer.